Hello everybody, I'm Nate. I'm a trainer here at the Longevity Club downtown Charleston, and I'm going to be taking you through a few popular movements that we like to do on the reformer in our Pilates classes. I'm going to start off with a down stretch. So with the down stretch, first things first, we're going to get ourselves on the reformer. Hands are on the foot bar, feet are up against the shoulder blocks. I'm going to find good alignment so that the knees are right under the hips. And then from here, I'm going to exhale. I'm going to press the carriage out. I'm going to fully extend the hips, inhale, and then I'm going to take it down as far back as I can, squeezing the core, keeping everything nice and tight here. And then I'm going to bring myself forward. And at the top here, we're going to add a little bit of an extension through the thoracic spine. Now I'm doing that while trying to keep my glutes and my core fully engaged so that I don't dump into the low back or the lumbar spine. And so I'm finding that extension through that T-spine at the top of each rep. And I'm working my core as I go down. Now I have the spring weight set up with a red and yellow spring. That's going to make this a little bit more of a pressing movement as I go back, but it's going to offer some assistance for that thoracic extension at the top of each rep. If I want to turn this into more of an abdominal exercise, I will take maybe the yellow spring off. And now this is a lot more core work as I go down, a little less assistance as I come up though. So depending on the goals there, you can kind of mess with the spring weight. So that's your down stretch. Next up, I'm going to take it right into my favorite here, which is the long stretch. So with the long stretch, now I'm in a high plank position. I got my feet up against the shoulder blocks. I'm going to take it a little bit, just take it a little bit back so that my head just gets over the well. And then the key here is to bring it as far forward as you can while maintaining that length through the spine. So I'm staying as long as I can here as I go through this movement, and then I'm pulling myself into the stopper at the top of each rep. I really think that's key. If you can get it into that stopper and to give it an extra little tug at the top, and you'll really feel that pelvic floor light up as you pull into the stopper from that position. Really love this exercise. And the lighter we go here, the harder it is. I'm on a red yellow. That's a pretty good spring weight for me. You'll find that your taller clients or class participants, they do better with the red yellow. If you wanted to make this a little more challenging, of course, you would then drop down to a single red or maybe a single blue. That's probably as light as you would go with that one. Nice. So this is a few core movements. Next up, I'm going to take you through a few exercises for the legs, the hips specifically. So we'll start off here with a lunge and what's called a knee stretch. So for the lunge, you're going to place, first off, we want to make sure that we have our feet, our body is in line with our hips here. So my right foot is, I'm just positioning it so it's right in line with my hip, and that my knee is also directly below my hip here before I even get started. And then I got my foot, my right foot here, the outside foot is, closer to the front of the carriage here before I start getting into this. So we're working the lunge here. And with the lunge, we want the knee down all the way. And this really is more, I think of this more as a stretch. And this is a good one. Red yellow is pretty good for this. I would even maybe go into a red blue for what I'm about to do next, just to make it a little bit more challenging. But right now we're just kind of stretching out the hip flex. And I'm trying to maybe even create a little bit of awareness of where my hips are. They tend to want to rotate out. So I have to almost internally rotate through that left hip on this side to really make sure that I'm nice and symmetrical here as best I can be. So that's your lunge. If I want to take this into a knee stretch, I'm going to lift that knee up, and then I like to kind of hinge a little bit, get a little bit of a bend into that knee, and then we're just kind of flexing and extending through that left knee. And I'm really, at the top of each rep, I'm going to really find that engagement through the glute. And what's great here is we are working, I'm working my quad, I'm working my glute on my left leg. My right leg is stabilizing. So my hamstrings the outside of my hip here, glute medius, abductors, the glute maximus, they're all working to just hold this position. And then in the ABA class, I like to kind of turn this into somewhat of a reverse lunge, I guess you could say, going from the knee stretch. So now I'm bending and extending through the right leg, and the left leg kind of comes in and out along with that. And then I can even, if I really want to make this challenging, I can lift the hands up as I go down and then bring them down as I come up. And this is a lot right here. This is, your right leg is really working, your right hip is really working as you work this movement. Good. So that's the knee stretch, and you're lunging, a few variations with that. Next movement that I'm going to show you, standing splits. So with the standing splits, I'm going to do this facing you so you can see me. I have one foot on the foot plate, other foot is on the carriage. Always make sure that you stand up, starting with your foot on the foot plate. That's more stable than starting on the carriage. But then from here, we're going to start with the abduction, which is where I'm forcing that this carriage out, and this is challenging the outer side of my hip here. And you'll really feel this start to light up, especially with some heavier spring weight. I have a red blue on here, which might be a little bit aggressive. This feels good for me. I would say for the class, I'll typically go red yellow for most people. And if we're feeling like this isn't challenging enough, the closer you get inside, the harder this gets. The farther out I go, the easier this gets. So, and that's reverse for the next movement that I'm going to show you, which will work the inner groin, the inner thighs, the adductors, the adductors. And for that, we're going to drop it all the way down to a yellow spring. And so with this one, it's all about pulling in here. So I'm going to exhale and pull in, and I'm going to zip everything up. Inhale as I take it out. I might even, bring the arms out to my side. Exhale, pull everything in. And with both of these movements, you'll see a lot of people round out of their pelvis. They'll get into that anterior tilt. We really want to make sure that we're tucking the pelvis, right? Even as we go out right here, I'm thinking about squeezing my glutes, keeping my core engaged, and trying to find that nice, neutral position with my pelvis, keeping that there the whole time. And then with this one, opposite of what I said earlier with the abduction, the further out we go, the harder this becomes. So that's just another way to kind of progress it, regress it. The closer your feet are, the easier. The farther apart, the harder. So that's a good one for the adduction. So that's a few little movements there for the legs. So now we've hit abs, legs. Next up, we're going to get some arms in. So for the arm work, I'm going to step off, making sure to bring that foot off the carriage first and then the foot off the foot plate. I'm going to take it into red yellow again here. We'll just stick with red yellow for most of these exercises. And I'm going to do some arm work facing the straps here. So what I'm going to do here, there's a bunch of different ways you can position yourself. I typically like this one right here because I'm all about extra core stability work. But from this position, you could sit back on your heels like so, or if you wanted, you could maybe even have someone sit cross-legged or have their feet out in front of them while they're doing the arm work. I typically just like to have people, either sit back on the heels or sit up like this. And what we're going to do from here is we're going to grab both straps by the short loops here. And then from this position, we can just start working your basic bicep curls right from this position. So with these, I'm leaning back just a tiny bit, and that kind of helps with the stability. I'm squeezing the glutes big time, squeezing the core as always, tucking that pelvis. And I'm taking this nice and slow. And I really like to focus on the eccentric as I lower down, feeling that tension build up, that heat in the biceps here. And we can go from the biceps into a little rear delt lat pull or chest expansion type movement. So now I'm pulling the straps, facing the palms away from me, or I guess I should say towards me. The palms are now facing towards me, and I'm pulling them back, really trying to open up through the chest. I'm going to exhale as I go out, inhale as I bring it back forward. Good. And then we can take it into a few other movements. The next one I'll show you, the last one I'll show you here, just a fun one. You can kind of cross the straps over top of each other and then place your hands on top of the knots. And then from here we can work a high row motion. So now I'm targeting the upper back here, sending those elbows out, flaring those elbows out. And then I can even go into like a face pull, which is gonna be like a row with external rotation of the shoulder. This is kind of a heavy weight to be doing this with. I'd probably lower it down before I had people doing that. But yeah, a lot of different movements you can do from any position really on the reformer, obviously. So I just showed you a few different things. And that's kind of your typical format for ABA, which is what I teach right now. So abs, hips, buns is what we call it, buns, and then you have the arms. That's ABA, and I teach that Monday nights at 5:30. If you ever want to check it out, please stop by. I'd love to have you. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good one.